What a blessed Sabbath in the new year. That I am invited to worship together with Golden Harvest Church. I will never forget it. I cherish it. It means much to fellowship with you. All because you seem to know what you're doing. You see everyone is doing their part, everyone. Now you even have the children and the youth mixed together when others are doing things we don't know in the house of God. I want to start by saying, thank God Samson disclosed the source of his strength. Thank God he disclosed. I may not say, thank God he was shaven, or thank God that his eyes were gouged out, but I want to say, thank God that the derived power was moved from the sight of everyone and gave way for the power underived, the power from God himself. When that power was released, much more was done in a moment than what was done throughout all the time that he lived, with the power derived from the hair. Thank God he disclosed. Thank God the power that can be shaven was shaven, that we could know there is a power that cannot be shaven. There is a power that cannot be cut. There is a power that cannot be thwarted. There is a power that cannot be withstood. The power of God himself. And today, the subject of the message is our invincible origin. I know that we are human beings, we tend to be proud, depending on wherever we come from. And we can be proud of ourselves, maybe proud of whatever strength we have inherited, whatever ability we have inherited. But today I want to show that we have the origin that is invincible. Why do I want to say this? There are times when it looks like all is lost and all is gone, only because you are involved in a small battle or a small skirmish and you think the war is lost. And I want to say, the war will never be lost. We are going to read from the book of Esther, chapter 6, verse 13. And then from there we will read from the book of Genesis, chapter 3, verse 15. And then we shall conclude by reading Colossians chapter 1, verse 15 to 18. After reading that one, we are no longer reading. We are just enjoying the cream of the word. The Bible says, and Haman told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends, everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men, and Zeresh his wife unto him, if Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shalt surely fall before him. Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. I could paraphrase it, but it is very critical that we understand what we are saying today. Genesis chapter 3, verse 15 says, and I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. Each shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Before I pass to the last verse, I there are pronouns there that I want you to note. The one seed is it, and the other seed is he. Amen. We are to read now the last one, Colossians. Chapter 1, verse 15 to 18. It says, "Who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature? For by him were all things created, that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions, or principalities, or powers. All things were created by him and for him. And he is before all things, and by him all things consist. And he is the head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he might have the preeminence." May God bless the reading of his word in Jesus. Amen. We find Haman talking to his wife and his wise friends. I wish all of us had wise friends. I wish all of us have friends that we can trust with their wisdom, but I'm not going to dwell there. But here they were not talking. This was not their first meeting. This was their second meeting. But what is interesting is that it seems their friend and the husband of the wife, Zeresh, is beginning to fall before Mordecai. And they are saying to Mordecai, "You will not prevail against Mordecai if he is of the seed of the Jews." Before I wear out your concentration, allow me to say, between the plant and the seed comes first the seed. Then the plant will produce another seed, but the first is the seed. If you will miss the concept of the seed, you will miss the whole sermon. Now, in the book of Genesis, God is addressing, the couple is addressing the snake also, that I will put enmity between your seed, the seed of the woman, and the seed of the snake. All right. The seed of the snake, the seed of the snake is Satan. The seed of the woman is Jesus, who crushes the herd of the seed of the snake, who destroys Satan and his dominion, Satan and his power. So when we talk about the seed, we are not talking in this case about the offspring. I know that it is a challenge for some of us, but there are times you need to swallow first, and then you can digest when you have swallowed. Amen. Let's digest it let's deal with it. Now, in this case, in the book of Esther, when we read from chapter 2, Mordecai was serving by the gate of the palace. And one of these days, there were chamberlains, the two servants, of the king, Ahasuerus, these two men wanted to harm the king. And Mordecai disclosed and told the king, and it was investigated, and it was found to be so. And these two were hanged. Now remember, these were trusted men. Even eunuchs, they could be trusted with women. I don't have time to explain that one. You will find out yourself. They were somehow incapacitated to be harmless, whatever it means. But harmless men. And now these two men are removed from positions of trust. As soon as they are removed and they are hanged and they die, then the king appoints Haman. And he says, let everyone worship Haman. And all the other gatekeepers there who are working with Mordecai, they worship when he passes. They fall prostrate when he passes. But they see Mordecai is not worshiping. And they take him to task. And they say the king has commanded that everyone should worship Haman. But you are not worshiping. And he says, I am a Jew. I will not worship a man. And they made, now get it straight, they made Haman aware that this man will not worship you. And it is the command of the king that you should be worshipped. And he was so grieved because it was the command of the king. He came up with a plan and he wanted to deal with Mordecai. And he wanted to make it worse by making sure that all the Jews must perish. And one of these days he goes to the king Ahasuerus. And he says, you have commanded that I should be worshipped, but there is a man together with his people who has spread through the province of the land of Persia. The provinces of the land of Persia are strewn with these people. They are everywhere. They have their own commandments. They don't keep the commandments of the king. They have their own ways. They must all be eliminated. And the king took out his ring. That was the signature of the time. And he gave it to Haman. For Haman, and then Haman called the scribes and they made the announcement. They wrote and they distributed the notice to everyone in the country. And everyone, including the Jews themselves, became aware that the Jews are going to be destroyed. Now, understand this. The king did not read that document, but he simply gave away his signature. And in there, they put the Jews, all of them must be eliminated. From India to Ethiopia, all of them were supposed to be destroyed. And then, of course, all of us know that Mordecai, of course, grieved and called upon Esther to intervene. And Esther knew that there is protocol in the palace. You don't just show up to the king. The king might decide to kill you. And when she was hesitating, then Mordecai says, do not think that you will prevail because you are in the palace. They will point out that you are a Jew also and you might be eliminated. And so do not think you may be spared because you are the wife or you are the queen. And she called for prayer. She called for fasting for 3 days. She also fasted and they prayed and she accepted. I will appear before the king. If I perish, I perish. There was prayer out there. She appeared before the king, and the king saw her. And the king stretched his hand with a scepter, and the king showed mercy. And the king asked, "What shall I do for you, even up to half my kingdom?" She invited the king to the first banquet, where she was going to invite them to the second banquet. The first banquet was the wine banquet. And then the next banquet was another thing. That is where Esther was going to disclose what is happening. Then she calls that, "Let Haman come to this wine banquet." Haman was called. And he came when he realized that I'm the only one with the queen in this kind of setup. He felt I'm great indeed. And the queen continued to invite the king and Haman again into the second banquet. He continued to feel even greater. I'm big. I've had the first banquet with the king and the queen. I'm going to go for the second one, only me with the king and the queen. And I'm going to destroy also the Jews. I am great. Now, I want you to understand that there are things that we may not do, that we may not be aware of, but God is aware of. There are things that we may not do, but God takes it personal and He does them. And when they talk about the seed here, I'll come to it. But I want to show you here that after the first banquet, and when Haman was going out, there was Mordecai still not bowing, still not worshiping. And he was pissed off. He was angry. And he called for his wife, called for the wise friends, and they said, "Set up the gallows quickly to hang this guy alone before the Jews are going to be destroyed, even before the banquet, the second one." In other words, now the intervention of Esther is being overtaken. Now, Haman issued the instruction and they began to work on it quickly that very night, so that when it is ready, then he will come to the king. And it became ready. But listen to this. As they were building the gallows, it was time to sleep. And King Ahasuerus could not find sleep. He turned and turned again and again. There was no sleep. Maybe if he had had some wine that could help him to sleep, it could not help. That time the bed was so painful, he could not just roll in bed without sleeping. God was intervening alone. And he called for some of his servants. And he says, "I can't just sleep. Maybe there is something. Bring me the records. The royal records. Let's see and read it to me." When they read it to him, then it showed that Mordecai saved his life when he disclosed the plan of the two gatekeepers that wanted to kill him. And then he says, "Has anything been done to honor Mordecai?" Now here there is a plan now of God to honor Mordecai. Can I add flesh? Why not now? Why later? Mordecai could have been the one promoted, but it was not the time. The time was coming. It was not then. Haman was promoted then, but he was not grieved. He did it out of a good heart. And then the king says, "But what shall I do?" And the king says, "Who is nearby who can assist?" They say, "There is Haman." He calls Haman and he feels great again. Before the banquet, here am I again, cold again. Haman, if there is a man that I find pleasure to honor, what shall I do? And Haman says, who could that man be? It should be me. Okay. Command that your apparel, the royal apparel, be given to the men to put on. The royal guard. Command that your crown be put on his head. Command that the horse that you ride be given to him. And he must ride on that horse in the royal street, the special street. And Haman says, I am going to be the king here. Command, O king. And King Ahasuerus says, oh yes, thank you very much. Now you do this thing to Mordecai now. As you have said it now. And you must not minimize anything. Make it as glorious as possible. It's time to honor Mordecai. Now, he had come to tell the king that Mordecai must be hanged. But before he could come in, he is called in to be told that Mordecai must be honored. So he could not tell the king that Mordecai must be hanged. I think the king would have said something. If he had said, this man who spared your life, according to the record, must be the one to die today, the king was going to say, no ways. Now, he was so grieved, so sad. Then he went home, where he met his wife together with the wise friends. And then he tells them about what has befallen him. This humiliation. He was overtaken by God. Haman had overtaken the intervention of Esther to save the Jews. But God overtook Haman to save Mordecai. When Esther could do nothing about it, when no one knew about it, God knew about it. And they are saying to him now, as he tells the story, and they are saying, if Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, you will not prevail against him. As a matter of fact, you have begun to fall before him. And you will always fall to the end. And when you read the very last verse of chapter 6, verse 14, it says, and while they were talking, then came chamberlains who came to pick up Haman, who came to say, Haman, come to the banquet. In that particular banquet, that is where Esther said, please save the Jews. And the enemy of the Jews is this man, Haman. Haman, that very night, when he was humiliated, had to honor Mordecai, also did not see the morning. He was hanged. All because, you see, the power that we have as God's children is not in our blood. It's not in our flesh. It's not in our bones. It's not in our brains. It's not in our abilities. We can't foresee things, but the seed that they were talking about here is the origin of the people of God. Okay, this is how it is. All of us were made by Jesus Christ. Nothing was made without Jesus Christ. Satan came and cut our connection with our origin that is invincible by making us follow him as though we are out of him or he is our God. But Jesus is our God. And the power is in Jesus. It is not in us. It is not in our abilities. It is not in our talents. It is not in anything that is within us. But it is in God, who is our seed. Our Maker is our Savior. And so therefore, even when we are sleeping, they can plot to kill us, but He sees it. You don't have to know what your enemies are plotting, but He knows. You don't have to do anything. He will do something about it. Fear nothing, because our origin is invincible. No one will conquer Jesus. No one will overcome Jesus. No one will overcome you. If Jesus concedes a battle in your life, that is not the war. Amen. Sometimes there's a small skirmish. Sometimes there's a small battle in life, and it seems you have lost it, but you have not lost the war. The war will never be lost. The war has been won already. Has been won from heaven. It was won here. It will still be won at the end on the last day. Nothing is lost. Now Jesus says, when they take you to courts, when they want to burn you, when they want to crucify you, when they want to cut your necks, He says, not even one hair will be lost. Even if they can burn you here, it will be restored like it was never burned. In other words, the war will be won. And therefore, as Christians, sometimes when we are overwhelmed by difficulties, we tend to think we know everything. Now, Mordecai didn't know that he was going to be hanged before the intervention of Esther. He didn't know, but the plan was underway. Then God knew. Because God is in charge, we come from Him. We don't have the power ourselves. He is our power. He is our shield. He is our king. He is our shepherd. He is our guide. What He knows and we don't know, He will deal with it. And so we don't have to know everything. Even if we don't know, He knows. Now, because we belong to Jesus, we need not fear. We need not even be discouraged when we lose a small battle. Because God does not brandish or show power. He can allow a few things to fall apart here and there, but at the end of it all, the war shall be won. And no one will prevail against us. And Haman never prevailed against Mordecai, because Mordecai trusted in God, because Mordecai is of the seed of the Jews, because Mordecai recognizes his origin, that it is from God Himself. We don't live our lives, but we live the life of God. We don't live for ourselves, but we live for God. Because of that, God is ahead of us. God is around us. God is above us. God has covered us all around. God is even inside us. But there is no power in us. There is no wisdom in us. There is no ability in us. There is no intelligence in us. That counts so much that we don't need God. I must take this one before I sit down. No matter how intelligent you may be, no matter how wise you may be, you need God. No matter how skilled you may be, you need God. All that is in us comes from Him. But it is not all that can come from Him. It is just a bit that He has given us. He has not given us everything not to need Him. We need God in spite of whatever we may trust in our possession, whatever we may trust according to our thinking, whatever we may trust. Let me tell you this, you can pass with flying colors at matric level, but you may never make it through tertiary. Are we together? It is not all in the sky. It is not all in the hand. It is not all in the body or in the heart. We are connected with God, our Creator, and we need to stay connected so that what we don't know, He will take care of. And what we cannot master, He masters already. And therefore, when we stay connected with God, we belong with Him. And what happens to us happens to Him. And what He does, He will do for us. Because there is this connection with Him. We are of the seed of Adam and Eve. We come from God. And we belong to God. By creation, we come from God. By salvation, we belong to God. Ultimately, all enemies will perish. All of them, as long as you are connected with Jesus, even if they are your enemies or His enemies, they will be put under His footstool. This war will be won. This war has been won. It's guaranteed. You become a loser if you detach from the seed. And that is Jesus. That is where we come from, by creation. And therefore, no matter what happens, whether good things happen, you know, some people depart from the Lord because of good things that happen. And then some people depart because of painful things that happen. No matter what it is, don't be moved. This war has been won and shall be won. It is finished. There's no other way. But the little battles, let them be, let it appear like they have been won. They should not move us from God. Whatever is happening around us, let us trust God. Africans, even in the church. It has been shown in the survey that has been done that there are some Africans who still believe in human nature. Should I say human? No. What? Demonic nature. Allow me to say that. That still believe, that still hold on to that. That still believe that they need to be guarded somehow. They need to be protected somehow. They need some roads, of safety. They need this and that, in the yard or whatever. They bring some stuff, they chew some stuff. They need to install some stuff in their flesh. They cut with razors and they get butchered with whatever. It happens. But I want to say, we come from Jesus. There is no witch that is going to beat Jesus. There is nothing that is greater than Jesus. They wanted to arrest Jesus before time. They couldn't just do it. They wanted to stone him before time. They couldn't just do it. Because the time had not come. There is nothing that will overcome Jesus. And so with Jesus, you are covered. You see, when he makes you, he does not leave you to be on your own. When he makes you, he still belongs with you. When he makes you, he walks with you. He lives with you. He sleeps with you. He eats with you. He is with you all the time, even if you don't see him. But the witch doctors, there are times when they are not there. And then there are times when there are other witch doctors are greater than them. Then they get beaten. But Jesus will never be beaten by anything. When he comes somewhere, he finds demons having possessed some people, and they say to him, have you come to destroy us before time? He had not said a word, but they knew that when he comes and he chooses to destroy us, he can. And they know that they are bound for destruction. And so I'm saying, fellow African, trust Jesus. Why? He walked on this continent. Amen. When he learned to walk, he was here on this continent, the continent of God. He was here. This thing people say, you see, it is Western thing, the Bible is Western, but you people like talking things. Jesus is an African. He grew in Africa. And everybody, it seems, wants to come to Africa. Amen. There is everybody in Africa. Amen. It is the place. So therefore, Africa is not a place that should be far from God. It is not the place of Satan. It is the continent of God. Nothing should pull us away from God, even in the name of tradition. This Jesus is more powerful than the witches. Is more powerful than the demons. Is more powerful than anything that they fear out there. So therefore, fear nothing.